I want to talk about these U.S.-Iran peace talks. The U.S. has absolutely no interest at all in peace. This is all about, as we have pointed out many times, this is laid out in policy papers like the Brookings Institution's 2009, which got the Persia report, to create a deal, propose it to Iran, make it look like to the world that the U.S. wants diplomacy and that Iran is the one being unreasonable. They want nuclear weapons, and for all of the wrong reasons. And once the U.S. is able to convince the world of that, then they can justify a war with Iran, either using their Israeli proxies or wading into it themselves directly. That is literally what it says in the Brookings paper from 2009, and that is what they have been trying to implement ever since. And we remember the first Iran nuclear deal. This was actually mentioned in the policy paper. It was proposed during the Obama administration. It was always meant to be sabotaged. The Trump administration was the administration that took that role and ran with it, abandoning it unilaterally, no evidence at all. And now here is President Trump, because he just so happens to be the guy in office. Now he's saying, hey, let's do a deal again with Iran. Makes no sense for Iran to agree to anything with the U.S. as a nation, as with the U.S. government, and also with Trump specifically, because he has a history himself personally. His administrations have walked away from multiple deals and even treaties. Let's take a look at this first article right here. Iran rejects demand from U.S. to rely on imported uranium. The U.S. is also trying to convince Iran to abandon its long-range ballistic missile program. This is a conventional weapons deterrent that they have already used to deter U.S. and Israeli strikes. And I think that it has worked to a certain extent. The U.S. wants to completely disarm Iran to then do exactly what they have done to Iraq and Libya and Syria and every other country that gave up their weapon programs, did what the U.S. wanted for supposed peace, for the U.S. to just turn on them, betray every agreement made, overthrow them, and destroy their country. And so this is what Iran is facing right now. And let's see what else. So I still hear people tell me the U.S. wants President Trump. He's the peace president. He wants peace with Iran. This is a real attempt at peace. President Trump doesn't want war with Iran. He doesn't want it. And he's putting together a team to achieve this. And everyone else is sabotaging him. But President Trump is determined, and he just named Michael Anton to lead technical talks with Iran. The Trump administration is staffing up its team as the president signals his strong desire for a deal. So he has a strong desire for a deal. Let's see who Michael Anton is. Well, he has a U.S. Department of State page, Director of Policy Planning. This was actually, it was the previous Trump administration and also the Bush Jr. administration. We'll find out what he was doing. This is also a recent, this is from 2018. Trump's national security spokesman plans to leave White House. So they're talking about Michael Anton, also worked with George W. Bush on his National Security Council, and a former BlackRock managing director. So this is the anti-deep state president fighting this 5D chess game against the deep state. And he's recruiting from George Soros, fund managers, directing managers from BlackRock. I mean, who's buying this? And then I found this document from justice.gov. So that's the official U.S. Justice Department website. And they talk about Michael Anton, and this was back during the Bush Jr. administration. And here he is lying about weapons of mass destruction in Iraq. He was part of this effort to lie to the American people and the world about Iraq having weapons of mass destruction to justify this otherwise indefensible war of aggression against Iraq. The sanctions preceding the war killed 500,000 children, as we remember Madeleine Albright admitting.
She says the U.S. is trying to prevent Saddam Hussein from making and dropping a nuclear bomb or chemical weapons on other countries. And she says he's still lying about his weapons programs.
We have heard that 500,000 children have died. I mean, that's more children than died in Hiroshima. And you know, is the price worth it?
I think this is a very hard choice, but we think the price is worth it. It is a moral question, but the moral question is even a larger one. Don't we owe to the American people and to the American military and to the other countries in the region that this man not be a threat?
And the war and occupation spanning 20 years and continues to this day has killed over 1 million more people, probably many more than that. And it served as a base in the region to create instability everywhere else. We're talking about the lives of tens of millions, if not hundreds of millions of people, dead, maimed, otherwise disrupted by the US, its war of aggression, its hegemony over the region. That is who this person, the Trump administration, has named to participate in these talks with Iran. That's what he is guilty of. That is what the blood that is on his hands. Rasheed, what do you make of this? Is this just President Trump slipping up, or is this deliberate? Or they just hope that nobody looks into the background of these people? They just trust that, oh, he's a great guy, he's going to get these talks right on track to what?
They don't respect the people. They think that everybody is lazy, and that your memory is short. And sometimes they even put the stuff right in front of the people's face because they don't think that the people have enough desire for the truth to look for it. And when we're talking about Iran, there's something very specific on why they have to go to war with Iran. For any war or possible war for China to be manageable or moderately successful by the United States, Iran has to be taken out. And the reason is, and I'm going to repeat this, and I know ad nauseum, Iran is the underbelly of both Russia and China. And it sits in the center of what the U.S. had been planning for Pipelanistan for the longest. They want to control all of the resources. They want to control the waterways. They want to control the air ways. They want to control the land routes. And this, Iran stands strategically right in the center, because if they can take out Iran, they can then destroy the Belt and Road Initiative, or at least hinder it, which will buy the U.S. dollar another day, which will keep the empire humming along. And all of this stuff about a deal, Trump is trying to get a deal, all of this is a head fake. And what I mean by that is, you notice in the last week or so, 2 weeks, they were dropping little hints in the news that Trump waved off an attack by Israel. Trump did this, and the people bought this. Even a lot of the so-called alternative media bought that. And it wasn't that Trump waved off. If anything, if he may have postponed it because the weapons and everything were not in play. All of the things were not in line. Remember that Israel continues to get large shipments of weapons on a daily basis by the United States. The United States continues to commingle and co-train with the Israeli military, and they've been going over war games to strike Iran. And so when the media and when the pundits say, well, Trump is out for peace, well, why did he pull out of the JCPOA? No one can answer that. Well, for a better deal. Well, we have the videos where Kerry and all of the negotiators says there is no better deal. And to pull out of the JCPOA, right, hoping for a better deal is not rational. So the man who pulls out of the JCPOA and then threatens Iran with war if Iran does not capitulate to a new deal, not a negotiation, but a capitulation. It's not gelling together. And Trump, the media, and everyone else thinks that the people are too lazy to put 1 and 1 together to make 2. They believe that the people will put 1 and 1 together and it'll make 7, but it never will. So we're on the verge, we're on the cusp of a war with Iran, regardless of what anyone says, because America has her eyes on China. And just like with Russia, she did not immediately attack Russia. She tried to weaken Russia by taking out some of Russia's allies first: Armenia, Georgia, Ukraine. This is the way that the United States acts. She took out Libya. Remember, Libya was an ally of Russia. All of these nations, Iraq was buying weapons from Russia. All of these nations are strategically sliced off so that they can weaken the power that they're after, and then they can make war on and that's what we're looking at.
Yes, and you're talking about the U.S. claiming to wave off Israel. Again, people need to read the Which Path to Persia policy paper all the way back in 2009. They lay this all out clearly. They are going to use Israel to carry out strikes the U.S. itself can't afford to do themselves. They can't afford it politically or militarily. They don't want to absorb the repercussions of a war of aggression. They want Israel to kick it off for them. And they may possibly want Israel to use nuclear weapons in ways the U.S. would never be able to justify and get away with. And then Israel, having done that, would be a pariah. And the U.S. could say, look, we tried to wave them off, and they just did it on their own. That's in the Brookings paper, using Israel in this way to advance U.S. foreign policy in the Middle East. Rasheed, you're talking about the underbelly of Russia and China and ultimately multipolarism. And any nation in the Middle East with an independent foreign policy that does not subordinate itself to the United States and its hegemony is a threat to U.S. hegemony across the entire region and ultimately all around the world. And so this is an imperative for the U.S. It's indefensible, but that is their imperative. They want to take over the Middle East. It is key, just as you say, Rasheed, to control, encircle, contain both Russia and China. Where is China getting a lot of its hydrocarbons from? The Middle East. If you disrupt the Middle East, if you take out Iran, if you are controlling the region, even if you don't control the region, but you manage to turn it upside down in chaos, you now have the ability to put that economic pressure on China. It's all about eliminating peer and near peer competitors. I constantly see people in the comment section and in comments and replies all across all of my social media platforms. This is for Israel. The U.S. is working for Israel. Is it also, the U.S. is doing the exact same thing in Europe. They're also doing the exact same thing in Asia. They have their proxies in both of these regions. Israel is their proxy in that region. People need to wake up to this. The idea that Israel is somehow controlling the U.S. gives the U.S. a free pass for all of these things that it is doing all around the world, not just in the Middle East, but all around the rest of the world. So people need to be a little more, just like you say, Rasheed, Washington and Wall Street ultimately have no respect for people and their ability to reason and use logic. They think they're emotional, easy to manipulate. Do you want to prove them right, or would you like to prove us right? We believe that you can think rationally, use logic, add it up. 1 + 1 = 2, not 7. That's what we hope. You have anything else you want to add to this situation? This is the situation in the Middle East and with Iran and the U.S. currently waging war on Yemen. Is there anything else you want to add to this? I don't think this is something that's going to just pass. It's not going to pass because it's so integral to the U.S. encirclement and containment of both Russia and China. And we'll get to Russia next and what a farce those so-called peace talks are. Do you have anything else you want to add about Iran and the Middle East specifically?
I think the viewers should realize that the United States is trying to blow the region up. If they can't control it, they would rather blow it up because one of their mottos is out of chaos comes order, and they believe that they can fashion something new. It'll give them a little lifeline because people don't understand that the empire is playing against time. That is the main enemy of America, time. She does not have the time to do the things that she wanted to do because of the economic meltdown, the debt crisis, the loss of geopolitical and political capital across the board globally. So the things that she's doing, you'll say, well, my God, there's no rational person would do that. But when you're desperate, you're not rational. Your policies are rational to you, but for the sound, sane person, they become irrational. And what we're watching is a lot of missteps by the United States, and they're throwing any and everything up against the wall to try to prevent China from emerging as a power. And why did I say China and not Iran? Is because they look at Iran as a junior partner to China and the United States, and they want to prevent Iran from cementing itself strategically in the Eastern Bloc. Because if this were to happen, think about this. Iran has the huge oil reserves, huge gas reserves. Look at where it's located at. Look at how it's withstood sanctions for 30, 40 plus years. Look at how it's now a part of the BRICS. Iran is a living, learning lesson for other nations that, hey, if we persevere, if we go through the sanctions, we can come out on this side without capitulating to the United States and with the empire. That's a lesson that they don't want others to pick up on, because you'll have small nations, medium-sized nations, and large nations alike saying, you know what, screw this. If we've got to be sanctioned, then we'll be sanctioned and we'll endure it so that we can then go with China and Russia. Because another thing to look at is if you're in the on the side of China and Russia and America sanctions you, you still get all the goods because you're trading with China, the largest manufacturer in the world. So these nations, they're now starting to think about that. Oh, America sanctions us, we can't use her dollar. Well, let's just use the renminbi, or let's just use virtual currencies, or let's just use this. We don't particularly need the dollar. And I think this is what is causing the United States to eye Iran very strongly, because this America is seeing that with every step we make and every policy initiative that we try to enact to try to bring nations to their heels with the dollar, we're weakening our position, and we're also weakening the dollar. And they're in this catch-22, and they believe that the only thing that can stop the slide is war. And so we're going to have war.
Even if it can't stop it, what war does is stop others from being successful. And while you were talking about the different reasons the U.S. needs to stop Iran in the Middle East, I was just thinking about the population. Iran isn't a small country geographically or in terms of population, and so I was just Wikipedia is hardly a reliable source, but basic statistics he usually does well on, and it's the second largest country by population in the region, 89.3 million people. That is a large population. Only Egypt and I would say Turkey have, Egypt has a larger population. Turkey has a pretty large population. And then the next largest is Iraq with 40 million, Saudi Arabia with 34 million, Yemen with almost 30 million. And we can see all of the effort the U.S. is putting into bombing and subordinating Yemen. And so, large numbers of people in a country like Iran, and were to cement itself in with the East, as you say, Rasheed, that would, if that became irreversible, that would just be another part of this wall that is going up between America, its ambition toward hegemony, and the rest of the world it seeks to victimize. So it's a very good point that you brought up there. If you thought this video was useful, please like and share. Think about subscribing. It's free to do. It helps the channel grow. Check the video description below for other places you can find and follow my work. I publish all of my work, including uploading all of my videos on YouTube, Rumble, X, and Telegram. Also, the video description below are ways you can help support my work. I do not monetize my social media platforms. If ads pop up, feel free to skip them. They're not helping me out at all. If you do want to help support my work, please do so through Buy Me a Coffee and also through Patreon. To those who are helping support my work, whether it's a one-time donation, donations month to month, or if you have no resources to spare and you're just helping share my work with others, all of that is greatly appreciated. That is what helps me continue doing this work. That is what makes it possible. So thank you. And as always, thank you for watching.